Hi there! In this video, we are going to look at an Excel function called VLookup. VLookup is a tool that's used to pull information from one data set to another data set or spreadsheet for a matching value. That's a little bit to wrap your head around, so we're going to look at a specific example today as we talk about this function. In the situation we have today, we are looking at two different spreadsheets full of data. The first spreadsheet I have here is population by state. I have each of the 50 states listed and the District of Columbia, along with population by year going back to 1790. In this example, we're just going to be looking at the population for 2014, so keep that in mind. Now, the second set of data I have is information on the number of motor vehicles registered by U.S. state. So again, I've got the states listed here in my first column, and then in the rest of these columns I have very detailed data on motor vehicle statistics. In this example, we're going to pretend that we need to know what the population is for each state right alongside the total number of vehicles registered in that particular state. And that's a problem because if we look at this vehicles by state spreadsheet, we'll see that while there's a lot of information included, we do not have state population already listed. Now, without VLookup, what we could do is simply look up each state in our spreadsheet and copy over the population and add it to our first spreadsheet in a column. But we're looking at productivity tools and how to make ourselves work quicker and more efficient, so we're going to use a great Excel function that does this for us. So once again, just to review the setup, I've got two spreadsheets. I've got vehicles by state and then population by state, and what I need to do is bring over the population for each state onto my vehicles by state spreadsheet. We're going to work off of the vehicles by state spreadsheet today, and I'm going to pull my other data onto this one to start the function. To do that, I will add a new sheet to my spreadsheet here, and I'm going to rename this right away just to make sure that I know where all of my information is. So I've named this spreadsheet, or this sheet in the workbook, population. All right, now I'm going to go to my other workbook here, and I'm going to select all of the data included. To do this, you can use this triangle up here in the top left, and then we're going to copy and paste it into our other workbook. To do that, right-click with your mouse and select Copy. I know the information is copied to my clipboard because I see the marching ants all along the perimeter. I'll click back to my vehicles by state workbook, and I'm going to do a Control-V to paste my data into this spreadsheet. Now I have motor vehicles by state on MV1 and population by state on the population tab. Now I'm ready to set up for my VLookup formula. In order to use the VLookup formula, we'll need to have the same information listed in the first column of both of our spreadsheets. The reason for that is VLookup is going to use that piece of information to match values from the first sheet to the second sheet. In this case, we're going to use state. So here I have my states listed in column A. Now in my population sheet, I have my states listed in column A as well. Now this is perfect because now when we tell the Excel spreadsheet to use VLookup, it's going to look for this value, Alabama, in this spreadsheet, and it will find it. Once this VLookup finds the value, it can report back the information that we need. In this case, the population number for 2014. Okay, let's go ahead and put our formula in and see this magic happen. First thing I'll do here is I'm going to highlight my whole column A by clicking on the header here. Then I'm going to right click and insert a new column. This new column A is where my formula is going to go. To insert a new formula, I'm going to go back to the tool ribbon up here and click on Insert Function. Now I can find my function in the list here, these are sorted alphabetically, so you can simply click and start to type in the type of formula, or I'm sorry, the name of the formula you're looking for. In this case, we're looking for the VLookup function or formula. Once I have it selected, I'll click OK. Right when I select my function, the function arguments appear. And what we're seeing here is Excel prompting us to say, okay, we can do this function. Tell us what the parameters are. What are you looking for? The first thing we need to identify is a lookup value. What are we going to match in each of the two sheets? In this case, we're going to match the state. So I'm going to go to my first sheet of the spreadsheet and select the value here in this B column, Alabama. We're looking for the spreadsheet to match Alabama from this page to the next page here. The next question is, where are we looking for the match? For table array, we'll click to our population sheet and we're going to select the entire sheet. Again, we'll use this triangle here in the top left. We're asking Excel to look for Alabama, which is in B9 on our first sheet, in all of the population sheet. The next thing we're asked to provide is the column index number. This is prompting us to say which column the value we need will come from. So if we click to our population spreadsheet, we'll count over to the column that contains the data we need to pull over to MV1. In this case, it's column number 2. So we'll simply type 2 in the column index field. The final piece of information we need to provide is, do we want an exact match or do we want the closest match? Now, it's important that we always add false in here. And what false says is that we do not want the closest match, we need the exact match. So when we pick false, we know that any value that our function returns will actually be the population for the state in question. Okay, when I'm finished, I'm going to select OK. You see I get all these pound symbols here, and that's scary. It looks like I've made an error, but this actually is telling me that my cell just isn't quite big enough. I pulled the Excel to make it, or the cell, a little bit larger so that I can see the whole number, and now I can see that the population in Alabama is 4,849,377. After we have the formula working properly for our first cell, the rest is easy. Now we're going to take this formula and apply it to the rest of the states included in this list. To do that, we could drag this formula all the way down the list, and I can do that either by clicking and dragging or by double clicking on the small square in the bottom right, and this will drag the formula all the way down to the bottom of the list. Now, we're getting this error. The reason we're getting this error is because when we drag a formula down in Excel, Excel will automatically adjust the formula to make changes in values for the next line. In this case, there's some information in our VLookup formula that we wrote that we need to stay constant. Specifically, we need to keep looking in the same spreadsheet for our data, and we need to look in the entire table array, or this entire list of data. To tell Excel to keep looking in the whole list to find each of these values, we're going to have to choose which value should remain constant. To do that, we'll have to make a small edit to our formula. I'm clicking in the formula bar here, and I need to put $signs between my table array. This tells Excel that although we're adjusting down from B9 to B10 to B11 and so on, we still want to look for a match in the same set of data. So right after the exclamation point, I'm going to put a $sign, and then right after the colon, I'm going to add another $sign. Once again, we're just telling Excel, keep looking in the same place. Now, when I drag this formula, you'll see that my error is replaced with the actual population, and I can continue to drag or double click on the box to replace all of those errors with the correct population for each state. And voila! I've pulled the state population in 2014 for each state from a second set of data to the list I need. We have one more step before we're done with our task for today. What we need to do is we need to copy these formulas to plain text so the population number stays the same and won't change depending on its placement in the Excel spreadsheet. To do that, I'm going to highlight all of the information in the column here. I'm going to right-click and select Copy. And now I'm going to move this population number to the end of my spreadsheet. I'll highlight the whole column for P, right-click, and then choose Paste as Values. Once again, we have these hash signs here. To remove those and show the full number, I'm going to double-click on the right side of the P column to make it big enough to show the full number. All right, now watch this. When I click on the population number in this column, I see the actual number in my formula bar. That tells me this is actually the number displayed here. If I click on the number over here in column A, I still see the formula. So we want to be careful that if we're going to be copying and pasting and using this data later, we save this value as a number rather than the formula. All right, I'm going to label this column here. And now I can delete my column A and I have my spreadsheet complete. I've got each of my state listed with the number of vehicles per state along with the population.